What is an aeroplane? An aeroplane, often shortened to plane, is a fixed-wing aircraft that is propelled forward by thrust from a jet engine, propeller, or rocket engine. Airplanes come in a variety of sizes, shapes, and wing configurations. The broad spectrum of uses for airplanes includes recreation, transportation of goods and people, military, and research. Early efforts of flight. Around 400 BC the first concept of flying came from China where kotes were first discovered. The discovery of kites that could fly in the air by the Chinese started thinking about flying. 1485, the ornithopter. Leonardo da Vinci made the first real studies on flight in the 1480s. He had over 100 drawings that illustrates the theories of flight. The ornithopter was never actually created. It was a design that Leonardo da Vinci created to show how humans could fly. 1783, Joseph and Jacques Montgolfier, the first hot air balloon. They used the smoke from a fire to blow hot air into a silk bag which was attached to a basket. The hot air then rose and allowed the balloon to be lighter than air. In 1783 the first passengers were a sheep, rooster, and duck. It climbed to a height of 6,000 feet and traveled more than a mile. Afterwards, due to its success, the brother then began to send men up in balloons. On November 21, 1783 the first passengers were Jean-François Pilatre de Rogier and François Laurent. 1799 to 1850s, George Cayley. He first worked to discover a way that man could fly. He designed many different versions of gliders that used the movements of a body to control. A young boy, whose name was not known, was the first to fly on one of his gliders. 1891, Otto Lilienthal. He was a German engineer who studied aerodynamics and worked to design a glider that could fly. Based on his studies of birds and how they fly, he wrote a book on aerodynamics that was published in 1889, and this text was used by Wright brothers as the basis of their designs. In the same year of 1891 Samuel P. Langley, an astronomer who realized that power was needed for a man to fly, he built a model of plane which he called Aerodrome that included a steam power engine. His model flew for 3/4 of a mile before running out of fuel. Orville and Wilbur Wright and the first airplane. Orville and Wilbur Wright were very deliberate in their quest for flight. First, they read about all the early developments of flight. They decided to make a small contribution to the study of flight control by twisting their wings in flight. Then they began to test their ideas with a kite. They learned about how the wind would help with the flight and how it could affect the surfaces once up in the air. Afterwards they worked on gliders, spending 3 years at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, learning and testing on how to control the gliders. They designed and used a wind tunnel to test the shape of the wings and the tails of the glider. In 1902, with a perfect glider shape, they created a propulsion system that would create the thrust needed to fly. The early engine they designed generated almost 12 horsepower. The first heavier-than-air flight traveled 120 feet in 12 seconds. The two brothers took turns covering 850 feet in 59 seconds, but the flyer was unstable and very hard to control. The brothers returned to Dayton, Ohio, where they worked for 2 more years perfecting their design, and on October 5, 1905 Wilbur piloted the Flyer 3 for 39 minutes and on about 24 miles of circles around Huffman Prairie. He flew first practical airplane until it ran out of gas. Please like and subscribe.